of what people were experiencing at the hands of the people and included them, disguising the names,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes putting just the initials and
To protect them.
protect them. And that is next witness. So next witness is not a crazy piece of literature. I was prepared to defend it on the cross-examination, or at least to engage the counsel and explain the point of view expressed here and what people have said in letters on the cross-examination. It was not just a book that you get away with. That's the thing about that.
We just put on the light, Baba.
Huh?
Just put on the light for more light.
I think you know.
We just put on the light if you're perceiving the difference in the brightness.
Oh, I see.
Mm.
I'm seeing sun on my far left.
Yeah, outside. Mm-hmm.
What's that? Light or sun?
Light in the hallway.
That's the light.
Mm.
Yeah, Rabbi Dev asked me why I repented next week. I said, so that the past will never be forgotten.
We have a short memory these days.
Yeah.
Revisionist history. History has become the new definition of history is actually revisionism.
Yeah.
Especially now.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about right now.
Right now. Right now.
Right. No. Right.
So I want to ask you a question, Baba, even in that vein.
Hmm?
I want to ask you a question, even in that vein.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, just to share publicly some of our private conversation. Yesterday, I greeted you, happy and saluted you. A happy African Liberation Day.
Yeah.
And you said we need it. But the thing about it is, this African Liberation Day has been changed to Africa Day. And to me, I interpret that as part of a revisionism.
Part of
A revisionist tendency.
I agree with on the surface. I agree with you. I don't see the need for that. It's running from fact.
Mm-hmm.
It's running from fact. It's failure to admit failure.
Mm.
So they want to turn it now. You mentioned this brother to me, Ako Mutoto.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Baba.
You mentioned Mutoto times. Huh?
Yes, Baba.
Yeah. Every time we talk, he reminds me that Pan-Africanism now is just people just turning it into tourism and,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. A kind of purely entertainment kind of thing and culture and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And food and everything, but no struggle.
Mm.
Conditions of domination cannot be changed without struggle.
Mm-hmm.
I, for one, am not worried about the people's interest in cultural exchange and all of that. That is necessary, and it's a form of economic activity as well, that can go places. But that is what, in many cases, we told all this that the Pan-Africanism has come down to.
Mm. Yesterday at the African Liberation Day gathering, I heard mention of the Pan-African Secretariat in Guyana.
Really?
Our brother was going through a kind of a lineage or a timeline.
Going through a timeline?
A timeline of Pan-African activity, or as it relates to African Liberation Day.
Uh-huh.
I didn't catch the whole thing, so I don't want to misrepresent him, but I just heard reference to that.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you to expound on that in terms of the Guyanese aspect of the Pan-African Secretariat. I know Baba Watani Tayamba always mentions the Pan-African Secretariat as
Simple. Simple. It's amazing how bold we were when it came to that dimension of struggle, you know.
Mm.
We organized, this is Africa, you know.
Mm.
In 1970, we organized something called Seminar of Pan-Africanists and Black Revolutionary Nationalists.
Mm.
We chose those titles to suit the kind of movement we wanted to attract. You know?
Mm.
And knowing that all these words are controversial in the USA, I wasn't able with that. We sent out a circular headed, this is ASCRA itself. ASCRA is, we have a headquarters in 33rd Street.
Mm.
I don't remember, last night I was trying to remember the number, 33rd Street, Alberton.
Mm.
And we send these letters out, and we had them in red, and we had them captured. Let us turn from words of support to deeds of support.
Mm-hmm.
We are dealing with the African liberation movement, apartheid, and all of that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So we are saying now, we have come to a new stage, and we should. We also said in the same letter that we wanted, my theme was, in my draft thing, because you see, they had used the West India Regiment,
Mm-hmm.
which is self-expressive.
Yeah.
They had used the West India Regiment in the Ashanti War
Mm-hmm.
against Asanteva,
Mm-hmm.
and in I think in the Boer War also. So I said that the time must come to when the Africans in the Western Hemisphere must become a reserve of the African liberation movement rather than a reserve of imperialism.
Mm-hmm.
There should be a switch. And that was the call of that Pan-African seminar.
1970.
1970, the same year Guyana became a republic.
Mm-hmm.
We asked Burnham to declare it open.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know the presence of the state, and
Mm-hmm.
we want it to be a state. We don't want it to be a secret thing
Mm-hmm.
of a few activists.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make an impact on international politics at the level of the state. Without that, you're not going anywhere. So we asked Burnham to declare it open. It was in the teachers' hall in Thomasland.
Mm-hmm.
In his declaring it open, Burnham said that Guyana was open to freedom fighters from Africa who were seeking refuge.
Mm.
Get it?
Yeah.
We already had some of them in Guyana.
Yeah.
Because Austria was in touch with them from Rhodesia and South Africa already.
Yeah.
And they were already there. This is how Massimini was there and a few other people. So G2 from the East
Yes.
in New York, after Burnham set up, got up and asked if the same thing applies to freedom fighters from the USA. And Burnham said yes. Could not say anything else.
Good.
And that's how freedom fighters from the USA began to find themselves in Guyana.
Mm.
They wanted men, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end, people spoke and, you know.
That's how Mama Marimba got to Guyana.
Huh?
When I spoke to her when she first told me through the East, G2.
You said something?
But one of our elders who was actually connected to our brother Shaka, Mama Marimba, you remember her? She tells me all the time that that's how she got to Guyana. How she knows of you first is through the East organization when the East came to Guyana.
Ah, yeah. She is still there?
She's still, not even the East, but she's still here strong.
Yeah.
She's still active here, right here in Atlanta.
I think I met her briefly.
Yeah, you met her at Queen Tai at the one of the what's the name of that thing? The annual expo. Homeschool expo, yes. But you were saying the meeting at Thomas Land.
Yes, that's then after that conference was concluded, one decision it made was, I don't remember exactly whether the conference decided or we decided afterward. I think it was a decision of the Congress, of the seminar, to establish a Pan-African Secretariat in Guyana. That's how that came into being. Because of this agreement on the new pays, Pan-African Secretariat. And Zolili of Los Angeles, I think,
Yes.
he was appointed as Secretary General of the Pan-African Secretariat.
Yes.
So the Pan-African Secretariat had space in Austria building, which was cheap to us because Austria building was really the building of the League of Colored Peoples. And it had fallen into disuse. Nobody was using it. So we borrowed it to do Austria work. It didn't cost us anything, you know?
Yeah.
We just had to pay the rates to the council. And we more than occupied it day and night because we had the office there. We had people coming in all day. We had a night school. We ran a high school there for students who needed it. And all our teachers were volunteers. All the middle class people with degrees and without degrees who could teach, you know, they came there and gave service. And some of them came in. We had some very good mothers, including Ngozi.
Yes.
Ngozi was one of the mothers. And they said there should be a small fee. So they, you know, when they begin to knock the napkins on the money, you know. And so they began to raise funds that way by charging a small fee. You shouldn't keep out anybody. People are very happy to pay.
It's funny because
that's the Pan-African Secretariat. And it began to do its own work by and then out of that came we set up Austria set up something or Pan-African Secretariat, uh, Caribbean Liberation Steering Committee.
Yes.
Caribbean Liberating Steering Committee, of which I was secretary.
Yeah.
And the aim was to remove colonialism from the Western Hemisphere.
Baba Cambone talks about that. I remember one of the gatherings honoring your birthday.
Oh,
He talks about where y'all used to meet, and one of the places you used to meet was Bobby Clark's place in Barbados.
that's right. Yeah.
Do you remember members of that committee?
Caribbean Liberation Steering Committee.
Yes.
Well, they were from each country.
Mm.
Cameroon, and they were the members of the organization.
Yeah.
NJAC.
Yeah.
ACLM.
That's
in
Tim Hector's organization.
Huh?
That's Tim Hector them in
Tim
Antigua.
Hector them, yeah.
Mm.
Some painting in Barbados is Donny Clark, there's Bobby Clark.
Yes.
NJAC.
Mm.
Yulu.
Mm.
From St. Vincent, I think. Ulimo, Youth Movement.
Mm.
And the
Was New Jewel Movement a part of that?
New Jewel Movement, correct. Yes. And we got people from Cayenne. I was trying to remember his name. What's the chap's name from Cayenne?
Oh, Raymond Charlotte.
Huh?
Raymond Charlotte.
Raymond Charlotte.
Yeah.
I could not remember his name all week. Raymond Charlotte.
We're connected on Facebook.
Oh.
Yeah, I always send him your greetings. He always asking for you.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Telling me you'd be surprised to know that I couldn't remember his name. You should keep in touch. I myself very bad about it. I'm seeing him, we talking.
Yeah.
I can't hit this French name, but yeah.
Yeah.
And others as well.
So that committee was one of the
forum at one time was in it from Dominica with the Ravales, not Ravales, brother. They had two brothers teaching in New York. Dominica. Revere.
Okay.
Did Revere and his brother.
Mm.
Yeah.
So that was one of the products of the Pan-African Secretariat.
Yes.
The steering committee.
Correct. Caribbean Liberation Steering Committee. And we held the meetings in Guyana, in Trinidad, in Barbados, and moved from place to place. Then never really met to consider something. And that was the same Caribbean Liberation Steering Committee that became the preparatory committee for the Sixth Pan-African Conference that ran into trouble with the government for doing its own work.
I was just going to ask you, you just took the words out of my mouth, not about the Pan-African Congress, but no, you just took, you're going exactly where I wanted to go. And we got the other brethren here, y'all free to that. But so then Baba Cambone, and the same thing, he just mentioned something about some people who could travel. He was just recalling the context of that conversation he was making was in tribute to you, He was talking about your discipline with your eating habits and everything. They would like to go to Bobby Clark house because he would prepare these sumptuous meals. And you would be eating out of your little peanut bag the whole weekend. But he also mentioned something about people, I don't want to misquote him, but he basically said people who were able to travel. So my question is, in terms of the Caribbean government at the time, did any of those governments give the steering committee any trouble? Was it anything, or was it, how was that in terms of your freedom to travel and to exist uh, in order to function in the Caribbean in terms of the steering committee?
The steering committee could go to most countries, the Caribbean Steering Committee, because we acted through the local organization, you see,
Mm.
and somebody found out on the internet that I was once banned from St. Vincent,
Mm.
and I know I was banned from Jamaica.
You're banned from Jamaica too?
Yeah,
I never knew that.
this was long after. This was during the WPA time.
Mm.
They invited the WPA, and the WPA was sending me. The 70s, after Walter came back.
This was during Manly time?
Huh?
This was under Manly's time or Ciaga?
I guess it was Seattle. What was the other one?
Manly.
No, there was a third.
Oh, Shearer. Shearer is the one that banned Uncle Walter.
Oh, yes. I think it was after that,
Mm.
in the 70s.
Mm.
It was the JLP, though.
Yeah, Ciaga.
I got to the airport. Man called me back from the gate.
Mm.
Said, Mr. Bayano, we have instructions that you are not to be allowed to travel. Your passport, please. The man owns half of us. Everybody in WP was banned.
Mm. So you reached Jamaica and returned around, or this was when you were leaving Guyana?
Hmm?
You reached Jamaica
No,
and returned around?
Couldn't leave Guyana.
Couldn't leave Guyana, going to
Not to be
Jamaica.
allowed to travel.
Yeah. Mm.
No court or nothing, just this man, this officer, this black man in plain clothes.
Mm.
Sorry, Mr. Guyana, but we have orders that you are not to be allowed to travel. Walter Rodney was amazed.
Mm.
Said, good grief. In his words, he said, I should be a father. I should not be treated like that.
Mm.
He didn't say much. That's the remark.
Mm.
Shaky.
That was 70 or what? What year was that? 73, 74?
Exactly.
So you said WPA, so this would have been once the party was formed.
After 74.
Yeah, after 74.
But it was lifted later.
Mm. I remember the one time I met Manly, I was traveling with you. I was traveling home with you. And we stopped in Jamaica.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, I think there was a conference there I was sent to after the government change.
Yeah.
Umawali was here then.
Exactly. We went to stay at his house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else do you remember of that experience?
Hmm?
I'm asking Kofi what he remembers as a youth from that experience.
So
Not much. I remember the name of the hotel. Casamonte. That was my first time in Jamaica. Just traveling with my father. We was on British, BWIA, coming from here and just going back. By that time we were out here, you know, we were here, and Baba would come and visit us. Yeah.
Baba, first let me greet you, yeah? My name is Shakara. My name is Shakara.
Shakara.
Yes, sir. I'm visiting from London.
Hmm?
I'm visiting from London.
From London?
London, UK.
Shakara.
Yes, Baba. You know, and it's an honor to meet you.
Where is that name from?
It's a combination of Zulu and ancient Kemet.
Combination of what?
Zulu and ancient Kemet. So it's two words put together, Shaka and then Ra.
Oh,
Yeah. You know?
Shakura.
Yes, Baba. But it's an honor to meet you. Yeah, I'm a born and raised Pan Africanist, so I'm aware of your works, and so it's an honor to be able to meet you. We first begin by saying, but I do have a question for you, which is in relation to reparations. Yeah, touching on something that Brother Damani was asking you a while ago, because there's been some conversation about the Caribbean community, CARICOM, and the reparations demand in relation to the racial dynamics in places like Guyana and Trinidad. Yeah, I would be interested in your position.
I have none.
You have none. Okay.
I mean, I have not been part of that movement.
Right.
The people, I have not spoken against it or anything. You know.
Yes.
I have talked to people in it.
Right.
But I've never been a part of it because of how it arose in Guyana, you know, and it stinks, you know.
Okay.
But the thing you mentioned is very important.
Mm-hmm.
You see, in Guyana, the reparations people were appointed by the government.
Yes.
I remember that happened. And I just kept my distance. But I hear now there was a problem about whether indentured servants were due reparations.
Mm-hmm.
In 1992, after the elections were cleared up and the PPP got back in, there was, after having a reparations conference in the yard of the what's the name of that place where Ohini is working?
Where Uncle Ohini's working?
Huh?
I don't know.
Ohini.
What part of the town?
Burnham's old house. Burnham's used to live there.
Oh, the St. John Road?
Cassini.
Castellini, yeah, okay.
Castellini. This man from Jamaica was here, Dudley Thompson.
Okay, yeah.
And the British Lord that supports reparations.
Gifford.
What is his name?
Is it Gifford? Lord Gifford?
Same man. Mm-hmm. They were all there.
Mm-hmm.
They asked me to speak. They were talking about reparations, enslaved and so on, you know. I am always aware of where I am and what Guyana is like. If you ignore the ethnic factor in Guyana, everything will collapse. I made a talk, and my talk was called The Culture of Reparation. And I said we need to have a culture of reparation, and that is that each group claiming to be dominated and exploited should work out its own program for reparation. And that's where I lay the case. I am not authorized to decide for indigenous people, or Indians, or other people apart from those I belong to. whether they are due reparations or not. That is something that the culture of reparation must allow them to do for themselves.
Yeah.
My talk was very unpopular. A teacher wrote behind me when I was going up to WP office and asked me why I had to say that. I said, well, what was I saying? I can't decide for other people. That is exactly what we're fighting against.
Of course.
You know?
Of course.
I hear it is now an issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
And slavery and intention are not the same thing. No. Enslavement, identity and personhood are entirely lost. You're not even a person. So that's where you begin. And
Can you speak more about you said that the government in Guyana appointed the reparations activists, so to speak.
I can't speak more about it.
Okay.
I don't know much about it.
No problem. That's fine.
I am very uninformed about what goes on there.
Right. I understand.
I know that Jack Dio was playing ball with them for some time, some years, and they were in and out of each other's places. I was not part of that. And I don't know enough of it to talk about how it came. I don't even know where it is in Guyana.
Right.
I think I see that some Indians have formed something called the Indo-Caribbean Cultural what? Indo-Caribbean culture something. And the way I'm reading it, there is some promise somewhere of reparations from somewhere.
Okay.
And they're getting lined up. See? Because the same Rabbi Dave quoted me as saying, let us say that we suffered equally. I said that in another context. I said that in a context of governmental power.
Right.
I was talking about constitutional change.
Right.
And in that sense, equality arises.
Okay.
But that is a different thing from the suffering, relative suffering of enslavement and indenture.
Okay.
But I can be quoted sometimes.
Yes. Can I ask you about how knowledgeable and do you have a position on
What's that?
how knowledgeable and do you have a position on the recent issues regarding Venezuela and Guyana and the issues to do with the border and where it should be?
I think you're wasting your time. What do you think my question, my position is?
I don't know. I'm curious to learn.
You guess.
Guess?
Guess what my position is.
I would say that your position is that neither Africans in Venezuela or Africans in Guyana, have arrived at the level of power that we need to be able to protect, our resources and land, and that this is an issue of European domination by the European Venezuelans, as well as Indian interest. If I had to take a guess.
That's rather involved. I don't even understand what you're saying. The land belongs to Guyana.
Right.
But I'm finished.
Period.
Period. Okay.
I have nothing more.
On that.
Yeah. The Venezuelan militarists have always, for some time, it's not an issue with which I'm unconnected.
Right. Right.
Um, in 1959, 1969, there was an uprising in the Rupununi. The way it was represented is that the indigenous people of the Rupununi were revolting against the coalition government headed by Burnham
Mm.
because they wanted Venezuelan sovereignty over them. That is how it was summarized.
Right.
Askria made a statement saying this uprising had nothing to do with the masses of the Rupununi.
Mm.
It was the Savannah barons who were in rebellion. There's the big landowners of the Savannah who were a mixture of indigenous and white,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of thing. Hart and Melville. And Mr. Mercurius and I went to the Rupununi and conducted an inquiry.
Right.
Not an official inquiry, as volunteers.
Mm.
It's not much, not expensive. So we went down there and we interviewed a lot of people and published a report showing what we found. So I have some connection with it.
Yeah.
And we published that report and sent it to the Department of the Interior. I haven't heard anything about it recently and
Okay.
came up in something that Nigel Westmos wrote, because he found a reference to it.
Okay.
It sounded crazy when we took that position.
Mm.
This is the barons of the Savannah.
Yeah.
But later on it turned out to be correct.
Right.
Yeah. Because the Harts and Melvilles were tied up with Venezuela.
Mm.
So it's not, the thing is not even open to controversy. That is why they're not going to court.
Yeah. Yeah.
They keep it out of court. And they passed a law saying that Essequibo is another province of Venezuela as an act of parliament.
Right.
But if you were to go to find a cultural imprint from Venezuela in Essequibo, there is none.
Okay. Okay.
There is none.
Mm.
There's no governor that went there to govern and was buried there, or no church, no this, no that, nothing, no cultural imprint.
Right.
I haven't made that argument public yet, but
Okay.
the thing is in court dragging out, and they have an election there in July, and you don't know how much of what they are doing is electoral and how much is meant. Another thing is this Biden,
Yeah.
these highly opportunistic rulers,
Yeah.
Ghana is depending on them.
Right.
But Ghana doesn't know what they will do. They will do anything
Yeah. Yeah.
to suit their their interests.
Mm.
So,
Yes, Bob.
and I am not in touch with that is happening.
Right.
except it comes out in public.
Okay.
They had a referendum.
In Venezuela.
A referendum doesn't really. A referendum expresses an opinion.
Mm.
Doesn't give title.
Yes, yes, yes. Baba, to what extent do you think the conflict is being manipulated by
Like
America?
what?
To what extent do you think the conflict is being manipulated by America, and oil interests?
The Venezuelan conflict?
Yeah.
I don't think it started by being manipulated by the USA. The USA is fighting with Venezuela, and Venezuela is trying to placate the USA,
Yeah.
and that is where the danger
It
lies.
lies, right?
Because the USA made some compromises, releasing some people from sanctions
Yes, yes.
in exchange for what they wanted. So if Venezuela offers them enough,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they're turning
Right.
anyway.
Right. Right.
But Ghana doesn't understand that,
Right.
to me.
So what would be your perspective on the oil and America's relationship with Guyana, just Guyana specifically in
What's
relation to
that?
that? What would be your perspective on the oil and Guyana's relationship with America and American corporations in relationship to the oil?
I have a friend who says Ghana is an empire project.
Right.
Oh, Ghana is gone
Mm.
already. It's not what would be. Ghana is lock, stock, and barrel. ExxonMobil.
Yes. Yes.
That's what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So,
I don't see any sign of liberation anywhere.
mm, mm. Yes,
Lock, stock, and barrel.
yeah.
On every issue, they have come down on the side of the company.
Interesting.
I took them up on one little thing. A big man from ExxonMobil made a statement saying that Guyana was getting most of the money
Mm.
from the oil
Mm.
that they were mining in Guyana, and he gave figures, and he says Guyana was getting the most without making any investment.
Mm.
So I asked publicly, if Guyana made no investment, what are they doing there? Whose oil is it?
Mm.
And if that oil is not, that is being refined, is not an investment.
Mm.
This is how these people see life. Do you know the government said nothing?
Mm.
The government allowed that thing to go.
Country for sale.
Huh?
It's a country for sale. Apply
Yeah.
within.
Yeah. Yeah. In an open thing like that, your oil being sold, and they say you get most of the money without investment. Okay. You no investment, and it's your oil.
It's your oil, yeah.
And they did not have the backbone
To say it.
to come out and say anything to contradict that thing. So that tells me where we are.
You know, we were listening to Chalk Dust the other day, the song Three Blind Mice,
Yes.
talking about Eric Williams' role he was having about the oil back in the days, you know. It's interesting that the government of Guyana,
So the oil or the natural gas?
that was oil.
Okay.
He had a thing called oil don't. I didn't know about it at the time, of course. I was a child, but he said oil don't spoil.
Yes, Eric Williams made a statement on oil will spoil. I was trying to, I don't remember the circumstances of that calypso. I gotta find out. Oil will spoil.
But I'm just saying, in terms of at least the government even if they want to be selfish and thief, it would seem like it would make sense to look at the example of their predecessors in the region.
That's all, you know, with
You ain't even got to look across.
Trinidad,
You ain't even got to look across.
BP, right? And how they took over, you know, Trinidad. You know, you're right. There was no talking. Actually, you know, they said they didn't need it. They didn't need the opinion.
Yeah.
What's that?
That they did not seek guidance or counsel from the region, from the other Caribbean.
Oh yes, that's right. Yes, they know everything. Yes,
they know everything.
Not only that, but Rowley a few months ago last year said publicly, Trinidad has refinery doing nothing, and he wanted them to know that it is available.
Okay.
To the Guyana government, Exxon Mobil, if they want to do it to refine.
Yeah.
You know, to this day, there has not been a response. These people are funny.
Yeah.
They're funny. They have something called the SMC&E. The CSM and E, the Caribbean Common Market and Economy. Do you believe that?
At all. Yeah.
There's no common market.
Yeah, there's no.
Eric Williams and the same Hugo Chavez from Venezuela, the Bolivarian socialism, they had both made concessions to the Caribbean in the oil trade.
Yes, yes, yes.
They came easier. Since Ghana got all this oil, you haven't heard anything like that. Not a whisper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just self-bloated, selfish people. Where's the common market and common economy worse yet?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'd like to ask you a historical question, if I may. Because I'm a Garveyite, so I'd like for your knowledge, wisdom, or experience of
What's that?
I'm a Garveyite.
Yeah.
So I'd like to know your knowledge, wisdom, or experience of the Garvey movement in Guyana.
The Garvey movement?
Yes, in Guyana.
Wrong person. There is a man, a close colleague of mine, who did extensive work on the Garvey movement in Guyana.
Right.
And it would be absurd for me to say anything.
Okay.
That is Nigel Westmos.
What's his name?
Nigel Westmos.
Nigel Westmos.
Dr. Nigel Westmos.
Okay.
Nigel, where is he? In DC?
He's in New York.
In New York.
Yeah.
I met him in Venezuela.
Okay.
Huh?
You met him in Venezuela?
Yeah.
You met him there?
In Venezuela, in Caracas.
Oh.
About 5 years ago with AK when we went.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he spoke about you. So.
Yeah, he and I were in Venezuela once.
Okay.
Yeah.
To a conference.
Just
At Socialist International. In the days of Cap.
But I want to press on that question, Bob. I know you're saying you're not an expert, but in terms of your perception as a citizen of as a member of the Guyanese community, in terms of your perception, I want to press on that question about Garvey. I understand you saying that you're not an expert in any kind of way in that, but in terms of your perception, just as a Guyanese, what kind of energy did the movement have on there? For instance, when you've talked to me often about the how the Jordanites and some other people rallied around Ethiopia during the Mussolini War. You know?
Yes, the Garveyite movement was strong in Guyana. As a child.
Mm.
He went to Guyana in 1936.
Yeah.
He was actually there. His influence is left in the friendly societies and the friendly societies and the Jordanites.
Jordan.
1 second.
So the Jordanites are the. You ever heard of the Jordanites?
Yeah, you can explain, no?
Elder Jordan and them.
Hello?
They were
Hello?
spiritually Pan
Hi,
Africanists.
Dennis. How are you?
I would say that probably close
Last
in
time I bought company.
connection to like the Israelite kind of. They would
Right.
they were there that they were
Oh,
some
they-
of the they were the keepers of a certain kind of order in Guyana.
Yeah, so,
I was trying to explain the Jordanites, Baba.
yes.
I don't know if I did a good job though, but I don't want to cut your flow.
Yes, Nigel did extensive work on the Jordanites in Guyana. He was working with Robert Hill,
Hmm.
Professor Robert Hill, who was a Garvey.
Yeah.
And the things I remember, well,
You put it back.
Elder Klein, this Elder Klein, Klein, he was head of the Jordanite movement. The Jordanites are a kind of African rebirth movement that interprets the Bible in a special way.
Mm. Mm.
Everything is what they call messianic,
Mm.
Everything in there has reference to Africa.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's why when the people say, wasn't that one of the Jordanite people who was at the rally said Ethiopia shall stretch forth her hands unto God, and somebody in the audience said, and Mussolini shall cut it off?
Yes. The Jordanite was preaching
Yeah.
during the Ethiopian War.
Yeah.
This thing was on the streets in Guyana, on the streets and in the cane fields.
Right.
We had a man in Buxton, our village, named Daniel Pollard. He led strikes in the cane field
Okay.
and made the white overseer dance behind a band, behind a drum from the background right out to the village. Lenny Haynes is his name. Lenny Hayes there. Yeah, so this Jordanite was preaching, giving solidarity to Ethiopia and using the Bible. Ethiopia shall stretch forth her hand. A Portuguese man who was Roman Catholic, of course, and on the other side, it's Mussolini, shouted, and Mussolini shall cut it off. The man has to run.
Yeah,
Of course.
That's what
You had to run.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. We have to run out of there. Yeah.
You're so bold, man.
Yes.
But Garvey, they have a place in Queenstown Village as you called Garvey Bush.
Right.
There was some attempt at cultivation.
Okay.
I don't know what it is now. Kimani knows about it. Dr. Kimani.
Yeah, who's he?
But what I know is that the Garveyites were a very strong worker representative.
Yes.
Very strong. Trinidad as well. And when the Enmore shooting took place in 1948, and 5 Enmore workers were killed, The strong solidarity came from Garveyite. These are Indians who were killed, all five. Strong solidarity from the Garveyite. I saw Garveyite adults shed tears at a memorial meeting at Boston held by a friendly society. That has nothing to do with this situation. Just keeping a memorial service. And there was a woman named Caroline Bourne, who is one of my heroines. Caroline Bourne, she was a small businesswoman.
Right.
And she wrote a poem, I Love My Dark Color. And she and her friends will attend these solidarity meetings, these memorial meetings for these Indian workers, and they're Garveyans,
Yes, yes, yes.
straight Garveyans. Yeah. I used to interview her.
Okay.
Caroline Bourne. Thank you.
That's interesting because back to where we started, that seems like the Garvey. If I'm getting your assertion or if I'm interpreting right, it seems like the Garvey movement would have nurtured some kind of cross pollination.
From her?
I said it seems like you would have if I'm getting your if I'm interpreting you correctly, when you mentioned the Garveyites having solidarity, these instances of solidarity, even across racial lines, it would seem like the Garvey movement nurtured a sense of a political reality that was beyond just even the race, or they just happenstance that they happen to be
I
Garvey.
would say so. I would say so. The Garveyites the journalists were very much on the side of the poor,
Mm,
unquestionably.
mm,
They were not confused
mm,
in any way on the side of the poor. They had their mysticism. They would go on fast. They were the African ascetics. You follow?
Yes, sir.
They were the Africans who fasted. Quite apart from people who would fast on Friday or something like that. No, no, no. Their ambition was to fast 40 days and 40 nights.
Mm.
Yeah. And more complex is the fact that they were tutored by, I forget, Bhagwan Das or something like that. Das, an Indian spiritual leader from the Caribbean, from one of the small islands.
mm.
I think it's Bhagwan Das. Yeah. Following the same religion, putting the same interpretation on the scriptures and all the rest of it. Yeah. James Klein told us, and James Klein was the head of the Jordanites in our time, in my time, at Agricola. They had their own temple at Agricola, that is their cathedral, a concrete stone church, a church built there. And he lived there. He was married, and we had a training school up the Demerara River, a place called Land of Canaan.
Mm-hmm.
You had to go there and be purged to become a Jordanite. And then you come back and the headquarters was Agricola. But James Klein, Elder Klein, as they called him, he was our chaplain in Austria.
Mm.
He was officially chaplain of Austria.
Mm.
So if we had anything in the name of religion or anything, whether African religion or whatever, if you wanted him for a wedding, he would be there.
Right.
And he traveled with Austria to the countryside on Sunday mornings to conduct mass name changes.
Okay.
You see,
Okay.
you would have about 40 people changing their name at the same time,
Right.
and he would be there.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yes. This kind of religion, he is not worshipping any African god.
Mm.
It's the same gods of the Bible in African being.
Right.
In an African being, everything is Africanized. And that's how he sees the Bible arising.
Yeah.
So it's very similar to Rastafari in that sense.
Yes, somewhat.
But I'm interested in the name changing tradition in Guyana and how that developed. How are people learning about these African names? I know in the UK, I know how we began to learn about African names, and you know, many that in my father's generation began to reclaim their African name. But what was the process and the journey like in Guyana of this African naming tradition?
Yes.
In the context of a cultural revolution,
Right.
we have a little book called Teachings of the Cultural Revolution.
Okay.
Kofi should be able to find one.
Mm.
Little book, but we believed in putting things in print.
Yes. Yes.
And it was an appeal to Africans to become aware of their long history and the cultural gaps in our being in the Western Hemisphere, and to do what we can.
Mm.
One of the things being to choose an African name.
Mm.
And we prepared African name books.
Right.
We had Africans there and we interviewed them and got names from
Okay.
several countries,
Right.
put them down with the meanings,
Right.
and made them available by print off in
Yeah.
photostat, that kind of thing, and circulated them widely.
Right.
So people could choose their own African name and meaning and then apply the name. We had some lawyers who would help people without charge
Mm.
To change the name.
to change their
Legally.
names officially.
Beautiful.
What do you call that thing, Kofi?
Pro bono.
No,
Deed poll? They call it deed poll in the UK.
The deed poll, same
deed
thing.
poll.
Yeah.
Deep one?
Deed poll.
Yeah,
Deed
deed
poll.
poll. Yeah, deed poll.
Deed poll.
Same thing again.
Yes, and they would draft it out and send it in. And then when the rural district wanted a name change, we would organize a Sunday morning and turn up there with a bus,
Okay.
a bag, if necessary,
Right.
and have the crowd on this side of the street,
Right.
and in the line conducting the ceremony.
Mm.
That was only one part of it.
Mm.
Then we have the marriages.
Right.
Okay.
The all cultural revolution was not we didn't live in Africa, and that's all. In my family, for example, our family, we were married in a Yoruba ceremony.
Okay.
by Yoruba man
Okay.
in Guyana who happened to be living there working. Then he got children. They were exposed to an outdooring
Right.
on the 8th day. In Ghana, it would be 9 days. That's the naming ceremony. None of them was baptized
Mm.
in a church. No marriage in a church, no baptism in a church. But the marriage was legalized by the deeds registry.
Mm.
You go in and sign up. And large numbers of people began to follow that route.
Okay.
Some, if they wanted, they went and got baptized. If not, they just relied on the naming ceremony. We didn't interfere too much in personal lives of people.
Yes, yes, yes.
And we find that it worked very well because there was lots of voluntary compliance.
Right, right, right.
There was no order that you must have an African name.
Yes, yes, yes. No. No. No.
So what was the process when you and Mama chose your names?
Hmm?
What was the process when you and Mama chose your names? It was just as simple as you mentioned.
Process of what?
When you and Mama, my mother, chose your names. First, with your surname, when you chose your name, Quayana.
There's no process. All I did, we discussed it. Let me see. I changed my name in 1968.
Mm-hmm.
That was the year of the Cultural Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
We were married in 1931.
71.
1971, huh?
Yes.
1971. So I changed my name in 1968. And I was not the first in Austria to change my name because I had to think out carefully what name I would use.
Yeah.
Because the names were very popular from Ghana.
Yeah.
But my day name would have been Kwame. And I wasn't going to take that name because of Kwame and Nkrumah. I didn't believe in copying famous people. You understand?
Yes, Baba.
So do your own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's true.
I thought about it because to learn Swahili, and I chose the name meaning black man from Guyana.
Well, there's the process I just asked about.
Huh?
That is precisely the process I asked about.
The process.
Yeah, there's the process right there. The reflection, the internal reflection and the thought behind it.
Also, that's what Quayana means.
Yeah.
Black man from Guyana.
Quayana is of Guyana.
Of Guyana.
AUC is black man.
Yeah.
So AUC Quayana.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. Kwa. Yeah.
Kwa.
Yeah.
Kwa. Like KwaZulu, Natal.
Yeah.
Look, it really shook the country up
Right.
in a way. Although I say at that time, I was chairman of the Guyana Marketing Corporation. Now that's not a big job as it sounds. The government asked me to go there to see what I could do to revive it. The farmers were very dissatisfied. The place was on the sick bed. No, so I went there. The first thing I did is apply my my political theory. Um, I asked the general manager. My job was to preside at meetings once a month. But when they asked me and I said I have to see the place, I noticed that the morale was very low. I said I will need an office here. So they arranged an office, just cut out the place. And so I spent a lot of time there. I had to discuss with the teachers in school. They say, yes, go and do it. And I cut out hours during the day when I would be teaching. But I began to confine myself to examination students,
Right.
so that I could be absent from work. I asked the manager to send a circular to each department of the Guyana Marketing Corporation. There's 7 departments, telling them that there was a new chairperson, and if any of them had anything they wanted to discuss, they could come either singly or in groups. Brother, almost everybody came. People, and that was interesting because from those interviews I learned a lot about the Guyana Marketing Corporation and its problems, especially its human problems and other things as well. So that is 1967. The place became alive. Some other things that I saw to it that people, I saw to it that people and groups are empowered. I worked with a trade union, and the joke is, well, I'm there for about a year. Then I changed my name. Lost in a newspaper, sprawling all over the country. Big headline. The general manager, who is the head of the Ghana Marketing Corporation, he was a specialist in ham and bacon, could make ham and bacon well. The Mittelholzer, Mulatto. He came to me in the morning with a newspaper in his hand. Is my name changed? Follow? You hearing me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your name changed?
He said, sir, you have great courage. Yeah. He saw it as an act of courage
Right. It is.
for me to call myself Black Man of Guyana.
Yes.
So you can understand from that
Yes.
what the ethnic situation was like.
That's right.
Yeah.
Then he put his hand in his breast pocket, pulled out his wallet, and showed me a woman he said was his grandmother. Clearly African mixture. Only then did he show me that. His grandmother. So you see, you have people in all sorts of masks, hiding and ducking and hiding from themselves because of what they call courage.
Yeah.
So that was how the process went. And people like if there was a wedding, we would have classes, and after the classes, the place would change into a sort of meeting hall. And we had a house down the street where the bride would be there and a kind of procession to the hall where the marriage should take place with an African conducting it, you know.
Baba, are you a cricket enthusiast?
Hmm?
Are you a cricket enthusiast?
I understand cricket. I wouldn't say these days I'm an enthusiast.
Okay.
If I knew how to get cricket on the radio, I would get it.
Right.
And listen, I do sometimes.
Okay.
Why?
No, I was gonna ask if about the.
I played cricket.
Okay. I was gonna ask about the dynamics of cricket in Guyana as it relates to race and ethnicity, and if you have any perspectives on
As it relates to what?
race and ethnicity, the development of cricket in Guyana as it
I
relates to
couldn't
race.
say.
And, couldn't say that.
I could answer that at one time.
Yeah.
I can't now.
No, I'm talking about in terms of history though. So at whatever point you can answer it, I'll be
Well, in
interested to
school,
know.
everybody played it.
Right.
There was no exclusion.
Right.
Everybody was very crazy about cricket.
Yes.
Yeah. I was captain for my school.
Right.
Primary school.
Right. Okay.
The first time we played into school cricket,
Mhm.
I became captain and
Okay.
kind of thing.
Right.
And then we had a sugar estate nearby,
Okay.
which had some of us from the village in the second 11.
Okay.
When they're playing a second 11, they would invite us to go and
Right.
join with them.
Yes. Mhm.
Were you a good batsman?
I was an opening batsman,
Okay.
and
A serious business.
my ambition was not to get out.
That's a good ambition. Very good ambition.
I'll give one example. We had some keen people in our side. Yeah. We played a school called St. Paul, another village. We batted first. I opened, came out not out, 5 runs. The captain on the other side, chap we call Kuchar, opened,
Right.
came out not out, 50 runs.
So you're a defensive batsman. I was going to ask you about strategy, because you have some people who they just going for 6 all the time.
Yeah.
And some people want to keep it on the ground and just keep the thing going. So
That's interesting. No, one of the reasons why I asked Baba is because I learned that in Guyana, especially as it relates to opportunities to get into the West Indies team, there's often a discrepancy between whether you live in town, city, or rural area. There's often a discrepancy apparently between whether you live in the town or the city or the rural areas. Yeah, and so you hear about difference between Georgetown and Berbice, for example. And these kinds of things.
So.
Yeah.
that's why the young man here, even though it was.
Then they break out a bit, so it got to be a genius to break out of it.
Right.
Got to be special.
Right.
So there's a young man now. I think he was a fast bowler.
Yeah.
That come from Berbice within the last year.
Yeah.
And
then Hetmeyer.
Hetmeyer?
Yeah. He's from Guyana, but I can't remember if he come from Berbice or not.
Barakara.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course the political machine definitely politicized it.
Right.
They had Ifran Ali holding the boy's baby and all kind of stupid.
Okay.
They had a big picture after the brother did that great run he had. I think we were in Australia or something.
Yeah.
Where were they?
Yeah.
They came back home and they got a big picture with him and Ifran Ali holding the boy's baby,
Oh, I see.
shaking hand and kissing hand and shaking babies.
Typical
Politics. Yeah, exactly.
politician.
Politician.
Yeah.
Terrible set of people. One more question I want to ask you, Baba, is about the means of networking and even nurturing solidarity that existed back then, like in the 50s and the 60s. Like the means of networking and nurturing solidarity, the means that existed, international solidarity, the means that existed in the 60s and the 70s, some of the means, or maybe in the 50s that you applied yourself. Like when you have told us before, like when you went, for instance, you went to Africa for the first time and all this. It's I wonder if you see any distinction between how things are done now and how they were done back then. You know, like when you gave me the story about the first time you went to the continent at the request of Burnham to share with people about what was going on in Guyana and how you met with people, the Africans at the United Nations, for instance. There was a lot of in-person kind of meeting back then. Now so many things are done via the telephone, via the internet. Do you feel, generally speaking, that there is something to be said about the in-person kind of connection? The actually going on the ground and meeting people as you were able to do, versus an introduction through an email. Many times, many relationships now are forged through email or internet and all these kind of things. I wonder if you see, just would you have any thoughts about that? Is there do you see any distinction between the two ways of doing things? I know everything evolves with the modern times, but I just wonder if there's anything lost in the forging of deep connections, especially in the political context.
Yes, well, obviously is to be discussing two different modes of communication. The present one being made possible by the growth and spread of technology and all that goes along with it. The time you referred to in the past, there were no possibilities of conversation of any depth across the sea, across the ocean, except, I guess, for people like heads of government and that kind of thing. I don't know. So in that time, it meant, I'm not sure if you're asking me to recount the experience or what, but in that time, it meant if you want to travel fast, getting on a plane but people still traveled by boat if they had time to spare.
Mm.
The case of when I was asked to go to Africa by the Prime Minister-elect, it had to be by plane because um, the boats would take 6 weeks or something like that,
Mm.
and there wasn't all that time. Networking, you called it networking. It was not networking. Networking presumes that you are doing your own, you're carrying out your own program.
Mm.
I was not carrying out my own program. I was asked by this gentleman to go to the continent of Africa and meet African leaders and explain to them a complex political situation in Guyana. I agreed to do that. He had also offered me a big job in the foreign department, which I declined because I was not looking for work. I was teaching a small secondary school, but the idea of going to Africa and explaining to the African leaders and all who would listen the political situation in Ghana, um, well, it attracted me because there was great need for it.
Mm.
The official party that had been winning elections all the time was well organized in the Communist International and had no problem having publicity, having solidarity and that kind of thing from people they didn't even know, who would come out automatically and club the case. So I felt, I knew also that the situation in Ghana was not easily explained. People saw it simply as manipulation by the British government to get rid of Jagan. That it certainly was, but it arose out of a real situation. And I felt myself competent to explain that, because I had been explaining it before. On the way to Africa, it was not networking because it was not my agenda. It was my agenda in the sense that I was interested in it.
Mm.
And I felt it had to be done for general justice. On the other hand, it was something that the Prime Minister designate wanted. I had to pass through the United States of America, and I could only do so because the Prime Minister applied for my passport, for my visa. I had been banned from travel through United States places since the 1950s. So I just handed in my passport and got it back with a visa. I didn't have to Philippines. They go to the USA in transit to London, and from London to Ghana. I found that they had arranged for a meeting of the African group at the United Nations for me to talk to. So I gladly complied and talked with them, and perhaps that was a kind of networking. But remember, I was not doing my own work.
Mm.
I was doing work in which I was interested, yes, but I was doing this on behalf of other people, other organizations. The atmosphere was very tense because, as I explained, the PPP, which was being unseated in Guyana by a majority vote, the PPP had ruled on a minority vote, minority of the electorate. For the first time, because of a coalition with a party of business people led by the GAR, we would have government by a majority of the electorate through a coalition. The situation had got so difficult that I supported that alternative myself. I was one of the persons arguing for it. And on looking back, it gave the country a lot of leeway, a lot of flexibility that would not have been there otherwise. Well, by the time I was finished talking to the group, I don't remember how many there were, but a lot of males. Everybody wanted me to go to their country. You must go to so and so. You must go and see the old man. Tell him, and they're giving me telephone numbers and everything, whom to contact. So
I was fascinated about how you broke the ice. I remember you telling me the story again.
Huh?
I was fascinated about how you broke the ice in that tense meeting.
Yeah.
I ask you to recall that for the brethren that are here. It was a good study in in literary terms. You think
can you give me some water, coconut water?
Yes, definitely. In literary means people. We teach our students to know your audience. When you're writing an essay, I'm going to get the water. Yeah. So how you if you could recall the words you chose to use in order to break the tension. I'm pouring the water for you.
You want water?
Yeah, Baba, come in, bring it right now. Hey, Baba. Okay. Here's the water.
Oh my.
Just drink what you like. We got it.
What about this?
Yes, sir. Good.
What's that?
He's good.
Okay. Hmm?
No, that was just brother Damani.
Is it chair?
Yes, Lord.
Is this a chair?
Yes, Lord. Yes.
So, brother Shaka, we talk for a minute.
Yeah.
I'm coming.
Yeah, take your time, brother. Just probably been on growing up. I think we're similarly situated in terms of the next generation, inheriting this the spirit of Pan-Africanism and revolutionary. Did you always embrace it from you?
I did, yeah, I've never been off track, so to speak.
And when I say this, I mean like even social pressure and
Yeah,
trends and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, I guess, some things slip through here and there, but I was always one who was very focused on, um, the principles that I was raised in from early. The way my dad puts it, I understood what it was very young, and embraced it, So yeah, I was even the other day, the brother asked me, did I ever go off the rails? I never did. Many people do. Many people that I was raised with and around did, but I just wasn't.
I would say I almost did a certain extent, but there was always community in the village.
Right.
Ultimately, guidance of that keep us in tune. What really reached me is leaving Guyana in political exile. By the time Walter was assassinated, a couple of things happened. My mother was beat like for an inch of her life. Came over here for treatment and all. So, hey, you gone? So, what, coming over here in a different environment and then it's being about school and everything, being around a lot of rich white people, the school you go to and all that kind of stuff. It's very interesting.
What age, Baba?
This was from fifth grade. From fifth grade to seventh grade. In eighth grade, we went out to California, and Mama gave me another chance to be in the hood.
Right.
And I've always been attracted to the rebels. So it was just like one of them things where, Southern California in the mid 80s, it's gang bang central. So Mama did what she had to do. To quote Tupac, I realized Mama really paid the price. She nearly gave her life to raise me right, Real talk. I get chills even when I reflect them lyrics there, because it's real, So, but there's always things there. There's community in San Diego, powerful community that established rites of passage.
Right.
Mostly my younger brother, and then went through that. I was a little older. So I served a kind of different role, However, it was family always there. There was community there in a sense. So, but to me, that's a thing where everybody goes through. 'Cause I think of preachers' children. That's why I asked, say about preachers' children and teachers' children and all that. A lot of times, them is the ones that end up being the wildest because they grow up in a real contained environment.
No, I get it. No, I'm the oldest, of my brother, and in our organization, I was one of them. So the only one who was older than us.
What's the organization?
It's called the Cable and Revivalist.
Oh.
Yeah. So we got it.
So a poet named Anna Mariapu.
Yeah, man. What do you mean, man?
No, you're the first man.
Listen, we grew up with them, man. The way I deal with. No, listen, and his album, Songs of
Yes.
Motherland, yeah, was just re-released yesterday.
What are you telling me?
I'm telling you, his son.
Yo, Damani, you remember me telling you about this album that like they mix the
It is one
percussion
of
like
the
it's
greatest,
like an 808.
one of the greatest.
What you tell me, man? What you tell me? Where's that Kibble and our Shaka?
Yes,
Our
okay.
Shaka is my teacher,
Right,
from
right.
you know, and he just grounded me through music.
Yes.
So I used to play this. I got the wax somewhere,
Yeah.
man.
No, one of the greatest speak buddies of work I've ever come across.
What?
Yeah, man, we grew up with him, man.
Yes, man.
We grew up with him, man. But it's and his son is a jazz musician. Well, I say jazz musician, but yeah, typically you call it jazz musician. Called Shabaka Hashim.
Okay.
So he's recently re-released the album on his record label.
Yeah, I need that yesterday.
In fact, you might all get it on Spotify, right?
I need that
check.
like this. I'm so glad.
I'm gonna check.
For many reasons, this conversation is happening, boy. Because you see, I'm a music head.
Yeah, man,
you just reunited me with one of my most favorite albums, bro.
Yeah.
Like seriously.
Yeah, man.
Have you heard the album yet?
Yes, I have. At Abbas.
Yo.
No, seriously.
Come to Baba Kuch. Yeah. One more step. You're going straight to it. Huh? Take one more step forward, and you'll be able to access.
It's not the same thing.
No, it's not the same. You're just kind of gathering around you, so we're using these different chairs so we can be close.
Yeah.
But the brothers and I are talking, brother Chaka Ra and I are talking about a kind of exchanging notes of what it was growing up, what it was like growing up in a revolutionary home, and some of the things that possibly could have been challenges, as young people, Yeah.
I'm glad I wasn't here. I wouldn't know.
Huh?
I said, I'm glad I wasn't here. I wouldn't know.
Where I could say in your presence, as I've said in your absence many times, your example kept me grounded in many ways, even though I still tried to be a knucklehead. Because you were by the time we were in California, that's what 8,000 miles away. But I felt like your physical presence was in the home, which is a great testament.
Yeah,
Brother Shaka grew up in England.
the phone.
The phone? It might be in your pocket,
I have it over here.
Yeah, literally just released.
Yeah, man. Just one, just send me
Thank
the link.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I asked you the question. No, but everybody I talk to.
No, you're right, because nobody when I know this still. It's a very you have to have been in the Pan African community in the UK in like the 70s and the 80s. Yeah, those are the only people that I know that know that album. You know what I'm saying? But me grew up with that to the point whereby my father says the first sentence he heard me ever say is "Africa must be free," based upon the first.
Yes, man. What?
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I tell you, it's yeah. Let me find it. I'll put it in.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
Somebody was saying, so as one of the old, you're the eldest sibling.
Yes.
As was I.
Yes.
So I was the experimental one.
Aye.
My younger brother and sister, they learn what not to do by watching me.
Yes, sir.
They learn what not to do by watching me.
Yeah.
I never strayed too far. Give thanks, but it could have been worse. It could have been dangerous.
Yeah.
Give thanks to Mama.
Yeah, truly. Give thanks to Mama, and give thanks to Mama as Mama, and part of that as Mama looks like masterfully making use of the village.
Right.
I said I could have strayed, and I have to give thanks to Mama for masterfully using the village you know, masterfully making use of the village in terms of, yeah, man, well, you know, uncles and aunties and,
Yeah,
you
man.
know, and she put them all on point, you know, on task, you know. Just like I'm happy now as, you know, my station, the same thing. A lot of the mothers in the community, they put me on task. They're like, yo, this is what's going on, you know. And having that example makes it easier for me to accept that.
Yeah, of course.
You know,
Gotcha.
to joyfully accept it, not even like, all right, we gotta do what we gotta do, you know, because sometimes it be on that kind of vibe, you know. No, joyfully, it's the thing that
Yeah, man.
is what has me here.
Yeah,
So
man. Yeah,
give thanks to be able to continue this.
of course. Yeah. No, similar, you know, we had the organization, but there was a community of organization. And you know, a lot from a lot of uncles and aunties. You know? So that's definitely sharp where I am. And what it did for me is it gave me a lens through which to view, you know, my friend and going to school and the community that I would grow up in. You know, quote unquote. I mean, it's not as codified as a LA. You know what I'm saying? But it exists, you know. And after we had uprisings in the 90s, so our community was like the drugs and the guns and everything. So I grew up in that environment, you know. And so yeah, it just gave me a lens through which to know how to not go down certain roads and try to be, you know, a positive influence then on the peer group as a younger man, you know, as a child. And that. So I do thanks for that, you know, for that. You know, like I said, some of those who I was raised around did, you know. But yeah, I just
Just thinking about, you know, like thinking of the dire need for what we've been talking about today, cultural revival, this knowledge of self, and looking at it in the context of a longer trajectory, you know, looking at it from ancient history straight through, you know, it gives you a different lens, you know. You're not just looking at it as spectators or, you know, like they say, hurry, come up, or never see, come for see kind of thing, where, okay, it's good, it's powerful, but it's something that is not still grounded in a sense of confidence in the victory.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Where I could never say I don't know that victory is certain. You know what I'm saying? Even though, you know, even the pragmatic amongst us in that way, you know, whatever would say, why, you know, hey, don't be sure.
No,
You know, because, you know, like Amilcar Cabral said, he said, claim no easy victory.
that's right.
I never said victory is easy.
Right.
But there absolutely cannot, you cannot tell me victory is not certain.
Yeah, man. I feel the same way. It's listening to Kwame Ture and he said that as revolutionaries we don't look for easy tasks. And so yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we just look at the task and what needs to be
what
done.
needs to be done to achieve it. Right?
Ashe.
You know what I'm saying? So it's a thing where
That's it.
I don't know. I think you have to be kind of crazy, you know, to choose to know what the task is and to choose to take it on. It's a level of craziness that comes. But you know, at the same time, once you sight a certain vision, it's difficult to, you know, like it's a passion. It becomes a passion. You know what I'm saying? That you have to try and overcome the odds because you have a vision about what you want. Yeah, and that vision, once that vision is in you, it kind of, you know, it guides, you know, your actions. And then I think about well, I got you now, but I think I put it in the context of our ancestors and our elders. You know, and it's like, well, we learn. Why do we learn these? Either why would we expect not to have to face similar? And then to a certain degree, we're not face what the elders face to a certain degree, right?
Well, I want to ask you, when you say what we are going through now, even though we're talking live and everybody's in the same earth, possibly.
Of course.
expound on what we have got you know from your perspective. What we
Yeah,
want you to
well,
know.
in the context of what I just said, I was more talking about there's a gravity of certain, yeah, and it's not that those things are not happening. I won't say it's not. I won't say it's not happening, but some of what is happening, some of us are not on the sharp end of those things. Anyway, you know what I'm saying? So like, you know, we know, like for example, what was the right? Those who nickel off of that Morris the shop, right? You know what I'm saying? Those times were hot, yeah, on a particular and the attack against what those then young people were trying to organize for was very vicious. Yeah. And I guess because of the fact that
So you see less intensity in that vicious attack?
not necessarily, but it's more because the movement at the moment is not as strong as it was then, if that makes sense, right? So they don't have to, you know, attack in the same way. Now there are places where it is that like that. So if you go to Congo or you go to Haiti, you'll find, you know, those similar vibrations.
The bombs going off,
right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know. So that's what I say. It's not a blanket thing. I'm saying. I say on certain level. When I look at my position at the moment, and I look at some of our ancestors, there are certain things that they have that I have not had to challenge. You know? That's not to say I won't be, but I'm just saying that the lessons of our elders and ancestors designed to teach us about what what the possibilities are. And so you have to make a choice about
grow our capacity to deal with it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand.
You know what I mean?
I think sometimes like the assassination of the 60s and the 70s was a sniper or a bomb or a firing squad. The assassination of the 90s, like when I heard Chavez with cancer and everything, this is the first, you know, is an injection or something in some coffee and them type of things. You know?
I agree. And before you even come to that, it was the chemical warfare.
Yes.
The crack and the cocaine and the heroin. Right. You know what I'm saying? You know? All of that. So you learn these lessons. You know what I'm saying? You learn these lessons. And you try to on an individual level. I remember learning about Patrice and how he was tortured. And I remember this is a weird. And I think about it now, but it's I don't know how much of what I'm about to say is true, but when I look back on it, it feels like a weird thing for a child to think. But I remember thinking, I wonder if me could have handled that. Because I'm thinking, I'm hearing that they put bugs in his ears and sealed his ears and all kinds of things. And I wonder, so is this what I have to prepare myself to deal with that? This is a child, you know. I think the other, thinking about how weird that might be as a child, but as an adult, I'm thinking, right, I remember thinking that as a child.
No, but that's a serious thing.
Yeah.
I used to be with my father. I used to be with my father at a place. Baba, remember when we used to keep office hours at Nasi? At Nasi in Guyana?
Yeah.
I remember I used to write articles. And when he was just talking about being banned, you couldn't leave. I remember some of my first writing, like this is because we left Guyana Standard 4. Was about who got lifted off the plane and who couldn't. It's the same kind of thing in terms of identifying why. And as you grow, like, okay, well, is this something I have to be ready for? Is this something I can, this is something I can deal with. I never heard the more gruesome details about our ancestor Patrice Lumumba in terms of his torture, but many others, many others, and during that time, like you said, it was just hot. It was a hot movement of solidarity, international solidarity, and definitely a hot. The nature of the beast at that time, it was military war being waged. That was actually warfare on both sides. To see like Angola, to see like it was actually a battle.
Serious.
It wasn't just. It wasn't just like what's happening in Gaza. That's not a battle. Right. That's just genocide. That's just one-sided. There's resistance, but you know what I'm saying? Like when the Cuban, when Bishop could talk about the fact that, look, man, you can tell us what you want to about Fidel Castro, but they were the first to face them South Africans with guns in their hand, and deal with a thing.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Any last questions, at least for this particular grounding for Baba,
For me,
or words?
I think I've got most.
I got one I want to ask. Yeah. Baba,
Mhm.
Excuse me, I was about to tell you all what's happening at the United Nations.
Oh yes, Baba.
please do.
Huh?
Please do, Baba.
Yes, these young men mostly were all keyed up because Jagal was their hero. He made the most noise in the so-called third world, and it's a kind of irresponsibility because he could say anything and get away with it. So the whole narrative was that he had been maneuvered out of office to suit the West and so on. So that's the atmosphere in which I am asked to address this crowd. I began the fight for independence in Guyana, in British Guyana, began in 1763 when our African forefathers, Kopi and Akora, raised a rebellion in the Kanya and held the county in their control for 11 months. And it lasted until the Dutch sent warships from St. Eustatius to drown the revolution in blood. The whole place relaxed because the narrative had been that the black people of Guyana, the descendants of slaves, were stooges of imperialism and did not want independence. That is what was circulated. So the Africans were naturally shy of association with that group of people that did not want independence. So when I put it in that way and tell them how long the Africans were fighting for independence, let's relax, visibly black. And I explained how the voting went, and I said the PPP, which is the usually victorious party, could win a seat in the assembly with 4,500 votes. The PNC, the party supported by most Africans, needed 9,000 votes to win the same seat, to win a single seat. And the Businessmen's Party needed something like 11,000 votes to win a single seat. The place relaxed immediately. And then I said, as the voting was racial, this was a severe injustice. Everybody understood. And I was being battered now with requests to go to this country, that country, that country, that. You must go and see the old man. They all call their leaders the old man. Let's go and see the old man and explain this to him. Yeah. Some gave me telephone numbers and so on, cards. And some told me they were going home and I should go. They run into them. And so I left. It was very effective. It was very effective. I had more countries to visit than I could visit. Too many. The first country was Ghana. Ghana was selected as the center of my visit for several reasons. We have an old attachment to Ghana and Guyana. We have some sense that a lot of us came from there. At the same time, we have a lot of people from Congo.
Mhm.
I was born among them. And that went on. And I arrived in England, went to the Ghana embassy. I had to apply for a visa. It was a simple matter. Got it very quickly. And in a couple of days, I was on the way to Accra, Ghana Airways. The first time I'm going to see African pilots flying international airways.
Mm.
No such thing in the West.
Mm.
Uh, Ghana Airways. I went to the Nigerian embassy and was very, very, very concerned at the amount of uh, bureaucracy I had to face.
Mm.
Sounds about right.
Some things don't change.
You tell me, I have to see the chancellery. I didn't know they had a chancellery. Anyway, left to Ghana. Now, going to Ghana was interesting because I had met Ghanaians in Guyana. You see, the year before, same 1964, Nkrumah had sent a delegation of Ghanaians to Guyana. This is very important for your history. They were people of the left in Guyana working with international organizations and so on. A lot of them were in and out. They used to come and visit me and, at Buxton School. And they knew something was amiss. So they would always come and check out. And then among them, among the people he sent were Billy Abraham, who was a professor of philosophy at Legon University, and uh, Nkrumah's philosopher, Billy Abraham. I didn't meet him at all. Makonnen, T.R. Makonnen. Makonnen was actually from my village, Buxton. So he came up to Buxton, and Nana Kobina Nketsia, a paramount chief who also came. He and Makonnen were very close. He had been a lecturer in the USA, and he came to Austria, he came to the school, so that when I got to Ghana, the ground had already been prepared. More than that, published in the newspaper of the Weniber Institute was my review of Kwame Nkrumah's book, Consciencism. I had reviewed that book some months before in Guyana, not knowing I would ever get to Ghana. It had been published in the Weniber Institute's newspaper. I forget the name, Consciencism. So I was sort of known that way to a set of Ghanaians. I arrived in Ghana and found, I think someone met me and took me to the Ambassador Hotel. The Ambassador Hotel, I had room 103 and began to operate from there. Ambassador Hotel is very interesting because I learned a lot about post-colonial society. Some things I didn't like. Some things at home I know what I would be doing at night. You know, at night I'm either teaching or meeting some group somewhere in the country to do some organization or planning or something like that. At Ambassador Hotel every night, a set of the political elite were there talking and drinking at the bar. And they would stay there for hours.
Mm.
I, as a stranger, would join them because I knew one or two of them, but I could not sustain that long, that long sitting around bar chatting. And I would leave and go to my room and read.
That makes sense.
I read everything. If I'm going to another country, I'm reading everything about that country before going there. There was a young Jamaican named Neville Dawes who had been in Guyana teaching, and he kept very close to me. He talked a lot, and he told me a lot about Ghana and so on. And he would be there at night, sometimes with his wife. And it struck me as strange. This is 1964, December. I'm saying this, I assume this to be a private meeting. It troubled me.
Assume what to be a private meeting?
Huh?
Assume what to be a private? What, this conversation we're having now?
Yeah.
No, it's not private.
It troubled me that people, intelligent people in a newly independent country would spend their evenings like that at the hotel bar. It worried me enormously. I couldn't do it in Guyana. I wouldn't think of it. I don't know. In Guyana, I go to a hotel. I will go to a hotel. To do what? To meet who? So I would leave and go to my room and read as much as I can about country. I got an appointment to see Dr. Nkrumah very quickly. I don't know why. I got there to Flagstaff House about the next day. And I met a man who piloted you to Osajipur, the president. And this man was a retired teacher. His name was Mr. Imprim. Imprim. He was also a poet. He gave me one of his books, talk, and then he let me see the president. I saw President Nkrumah 3 times before returning to Guyana. But I was not in Ghana all the time. And the role Ghana played was to support me diplomatically in case I was going anywhere. They would alert the Ghana representative that I was expected in that city and ask them to help in any way they could. From Ghana, I visited 8 other countries, but in Ghana, I met a number of people. There were some people there from the USA for political reasons. There were people from uh, every African country. There was something called the Bureau of African Affairs in Flagstaff House. Literature, original studies of every African country could be found in the Bureau of African Affairs, and I was invited to use it freely. I did so. They had a staff made up of people from every African country. The people who believed in African unity and integration were well present here. Well present. Nkrumah discussed with me his book. He was just published at the time, I think, called Neocolonialism, the last and dying stage of imperialism. And he was drawing a diagram on pen and paper, explaining how he saw things. Okay. The next day I went to, there was a holiday, Positive Action Day. It was a public holiday. The public service was not at work. Everybody turned up at a playground, a big playground in the city. I was taken there, and I think the man's name is Winnebeck, U.S. General Secretary. Huh?
And the name rings a bell.
Yeah, Winnebeck.
Winneba.
General Secretary of the CPP, Convention People's Party. He made a speech to the crowd. Believe me, he was talking to a very large crowd. Because, of course, it was a holiday and people felt bound to show up. Who do you think was listening to him? No one. It frightened me. It frightened me. I said, there is something running in this place that is not desirable. And the General Secretary was there talking his head off about positive action, and no one listening to him. Well, you know that what that means in an independent country, fighting imperialism, fighting apartheid, organizing African liberation at the highest level. From there, I met some friends. I remember James O'Kine from the Foreign Office, and there was a young soldier who would come to the Ambassador Hotel after work every day. As soon as he's off work, he comes to me. Sidney, where do you want to go today? He had a Volkswagen, and he would drive me around, take me wherever I wanted to go. He was he had got his training in China. I was to meet him years later. His name was Chikata, Kojo Chikata. Now, so from there, I set out. I have to go to countries that were in the Commonwealth because that is where the question of independence will be discussed. I went to, but I did not go only to Commonwealth countries. I went to Guinea, Mali, Sierra Leone, Liberia. No, Liberia was not with the Nkrumah set. Liberia was with the conservative. Liberia, Ethiopia, and another country, they formed a kind of middle of the road block. They were not with the Nkrumah line at all. Ghana, Guinea, Mali were always together. You can depend on them. But I think they call this group the Monrovia group or something like that. And they had the Casablanca group. I passed through Senegal, went to Guinea, I went to Mali. The president of Mali was Modibo Keita, tall man, very, very ordinary. Sekou Touré made a fine speech about the African personality. Modibo Keita's father had passed away. And what impressed me, first of all, was the African leaders were not sending messages of sympathy. They were coming. They were coming. They were arriving themselves to deliver their condolences and then leaving. I've never seen anything like that. I went to Liberia because Liberia was right wing, and I wanted to know why. Why was Liberia not in the progressive bloc? Why were they hanging behind the empires and, So I spent some time in Liberia just for that purpose. Liberia was an eye-opener in many ways. I'm doing my own anthropology now. I'm walking through a sort of slum yard in Monrovia towards evening. I'm looking around using my eyes and ears. I look into a small house on the ground and I see for the first time a set of people sitting on the floor around a big plate, a big dish, all of them eating from the same dish. This is the kind of cultural thing I was looking for. They took things to that distance that the whole family will be eating from one dish. This is culture. Then when I listened to the radio, they are playing the Ghana budget song called Work and Happiness. Somebody made up a song, a highlight song, Work and Happiness, to go along with the budget. And in Liberia, which is a right-wing country, the poor people are sitting on the floor and eating and listening to Ghana.
Mm.
Then I talk to people, they all listen. We want our country to be like Ghana. We want our country to be like Ghana. That is what they will tell you eventually. And as a Sierra Leone, they speak Creole, like the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
Creole very much like Caribbean. Very pleasant meeting me with this Prime Minister. And I'm doing my work all the time. Yeah.
Mm.
But looking out also at the society, the ethnic mixtures, how they behave and what they say, and all of that, because I'm learning. I remember going in a taxi, and there were many Lebanese in Sierra Leone, all over the place, couldn't miss them. And this young woman in the taxi was being pursued by a Lebanese young man, and she was Lebanese as well. And I remember her saying, "Me don't want the Lebanese boy.
Some
Me don't
good
want the
patois.
Lebanese." So I'm learning. And she got out of the taxi to avoid this pestering.
Mm.
Now Liberia was another study case. I went to Liberia and I began to go to the library and read up all I could. They have some iron deposits in the Bomi Hill in Liberia. They had a place called the African Jungle. The African Jungle. Liberia was ruled by a Mero Liberian. The native people passed for nothing. Eventually, Ministry of Information he told me about Mr. Kandakai. Kandakai is a kind of historian, old man, but he was ill and I couldn't see him. So I spoke to a young woman who knew him, and she said that he had found an alphabet with the language. What was the language? Oh my, first time forgetting this name.
Liberia.
Yeah.
Look, why?
It's a Liberian language with its alphabet, and all we know is that there's no alphabet in Africa.
Mm.
So I'm very interested in this. I'm going to bring it back home as an exhibit.
Mm.
Is it Vi, Baba? Is it the Vi
Huh?
script? Is it called Vi? VAI? Vi?
Vi,
Yeah.
the Vi alphabet. Correct. Vi. And this lady who told me about Kantakai was a Vi. He was something in the Vi tribe. Then I asked the officials that I'm interacting with in the State Department. They got State Department, you know.
Mm.
They got US dollars, State Department, everything, like the USA in Liberia, Monrovia, capital. So they began to wonder why I was so interested in the Vi alphabet, whether I was interested in Vi women who are said to be very beautiful. Look at these people. He's an Amero Liberian talking to me or some,
Mm.
permanent secretary rank and so on.
Mm.
Okay? They told me of a place named the Liberian Jungle, run by Mrs. Dunkley. I decided to go there. In fact, the State Department of Liberia is taking me there as a guest. So we go to this place, the Liberian Jungle. That is where African culture is concentrated. I don't know who Mrs. Dunkley is, but she knew how to get the crowd. And she put on things there that the official Liberians were hiding. You get it?
Mm-hmm.
You see the culture face to face there. I saw for the first time an African ballet at the Liberian Jungle. I saw an African ballet called the House of Dolls. Fantastic dancing and music. And this is being performed by people who, I'm told, are not civilized.
Mm-hmm.
The official Liberian telling you that these native Liberians are not civilized. So you can guess what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they comes up and they say they're going to the country to the Bomi Hills. Will I like to go? I said, yes, certainly. So they put me in a jeep and then the Bomi Hills are big iron deposits, first class iron. Everybody wants it. But the people in the Bomi Hills are not westernized. They're wearing their traditional dress, some of it not very plentiful, but covered, and they're called the uncivilized people.
Mm. That's what they call them officially.
Uncivilized people.
Mm.
So I'm traveling and I'm listening. So they're telling me that these are the uncivilized people. When I look at the uncivilized people, I see on their hands and ankles instruments of iron. You understand? Is that clear?
Yes.
They're wearing iron bracelets and foot rings. And these are uncivilized people. So I asked my friend, I say, all can cast iron? If you American Liberians can, you all know how to cast iron? You know anything how to forge iron? No. They got the point.
Mm-hmm.
They thought I was crazy. And I came to my own conclusions about African civilization. The Bony Hill, all westernized, people in their own natural environment, half naked, half exposed, covered, but with enough culture to make bracelets by forging iron. And I saw model of the forging instrument in the museum or something. So I used to make them hop. I said, you're saying these people are uncivilized and they can forge iron and they all never forge iron. So how you make that up? Then, but Liberia was not a. I saw Mr. Tubman. I had an interview with Mr. Tubman. He promised support for those who are fighting for liberty. Pure American language, you see.
Liberty.
I found out there were some writings by W. B. Du Bois in the library. And I found an argument. You see, Liberia was making almost a marriage with Firestone. You all know that.
Yes, sir.
Firestone. And I think Du Bois was arguing in one thing that I read, that one reason for them courting Firestone was because every European nation was stealing a piece of Liberia. And they wanted a big business enterprise to get an economic interest in Liberia so that this theft would stop.
Mm.
Firestone.
Mm. Mm.
So I was very glad I came here.
To streamline the theft.
Huh?
To streamline the theft.
Yeah. Then I went to Ethiopia. Ethiopia was very interesting because the man who was teaching English in Addis Ababa to all the diplomats and everybody in the foreign service and all of that, who opened a school teaching English, was a man named Mr. Talbot.
Mm.
Mr. Talbot came from Buxton,
From Guyana. Oh,
the village I came from.
Same.
And he had left home in the 20s and joined the Ethiopian movement, fighting against foreign intervention and so on in the USA till he went across to Ethiopia. He married to an Arab woman and he continued. He opened a school, doing very valuable work, getting Ethiopians ready for the foreign service and adding to the higher education of Ethiopia. All of them were a little scared of Nkrumah
Mm.
because of his international stance. He was pro, he was non-aligned, and all of that. And they, at the same time, in Ghana, this man, Dr. Dankwa, who had been sentenced to death for trying to kill Nkrumah, Mr. Morley, he was in prison awaiting Nkrumah's decision on whether the sentence um, would be remitted or what. So that was the conversation in Ethiopia, in those circles. Ethiopia is going through a very slow change. It was a feudal monarchy, but they were moving towards democracy. It's slow. Piece by piece of the country according to the emperor's decision. I had a meeting with the students of the theological college. And those students were angry. Very radical. And they told me how when His Imperial Majesty was in Brazil, some of you will remember that visit, there was a coup against him in his absence. And one of the persons involved in the coup was his nephew. And there were some others. And the students of the theological college were telling me that his nephew was spared, but the others were hanged. He complained bitterly about it. Uh, I went to Tanzania at a time when the president was absent from the country. I talked with Babu. There had been some disturbances. There had been a mutiny among the army and I think the police, and they had to bring in British troops to quell the situation. And I saw Mr. Babu. He had just written something in Walter Rodney's book, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. The last place I'm going to touch is Kenya. Kenya was a very interesting country. Like Tanzania, they spoke Swahili, the official language. At the time, it was Kenyatta, president. Um, Kenya was a very interesting society, very interesting. The wealthy people were the Indians. And you go in, they had all the stores in the bright parts of the city. And the first thing you see when you're going on Indian store was Kenyatta's photo. Kenyatta's photo. His Excellency the President Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. While I was in Kenya, we had a meeting of the Organization of African Unity Committee, the foreign ministers. They were in Kenya to meet someone coming in from Congo. What was his name? Mobutu?
Mm.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes, Father.
Mobutu. If you see the crowd at that airport, everybody found themselves at the airport. To do what you think? To welcome Mobutu?
No,
To curse him?
to curse him.
To curse him. My goodness.
That would have been a sight to see.
Huh?
The cursing of
Yeah, the public cursing of Mobutu.
Oh, he was hidden, you know.
Mm. They swept him away, spirited him away.
Yeah.
Baba,
Yeah.
I think we got to wrap. I got to go and get Asa.
Yeah, me too. I was going to ask Mr. Rapa.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know if all I had to say was of interest to you know.
It was,
Very
Baba.
much.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because you can't deal with politics alone. You have to look at the society. You know,
Yes,
Yeah.
Baba.
the anthropology, the history. That's where I got a lot of my inspiration from.
Yes, Baba.
I look at the past and draw my conclusions. So I don't have only to read books. I can tell the world that Africa had metallurgy.
Mm.
Go in the museums and you see all sorts of things.